Hi guys and welcome to my channel. My name's Teresa and I'm the card book crafter, and this time it's a man's card. But a man's card with a difference, because this one, it's not a card as you'd normally open, but it is a stand-up card nonetheless. But it's a sleeve with tag inside and somewhere for you to write on there, and then for it to go on the mantelpiece. You've got your stand at the back which holds it upright. This is my mock-up. I always use, you know, that cheap paper from Poundland to kind of do a mock-up. I saw some things on Pinterest and thought they'd be great to try, but there's never any measurements, so that's how I practiced it first, and that's how it turns out. So I thought it'd be fun to put the camera on and show you how I make it. So let me pop them to one side out the way and bring in the card that you need. So let's pop that there. So the first thing you'll need for the jacket is an A4 sheet of paper, and all you're going to do is cut it down like that, so it's 7.5 inches that way. Keep the length, but 7.5 inches on the width. And we can pop that to one side, and I use that for some of the decoration later on. You'll also need another piece of black card which measures 4.5 by 3 inches, and a piece of white card. Now this, I'm saying white card, but this can be any colour you like. You could do it in yellow and blue like I have with this one. And this piece is for the shirt part of your jacket. So that measures 5 3/8 by 7 7/8. I'll pop that to one side and we'll work on the two black pieces first. So with your large black piece, you're going to score at 3 1/4 along the long edge, 3 1/4. Now I always flip it over and do the other side as well. So 3 1/4, and then at 8 3/4. So, and this gives you the front of the jacket that will sort of fold over. Okay, so there's our folds done. I'm just going to fold it over and score that down. And the same on this side, like that. So that gives almost like a gatefold, but it's got a bit of an overlap there. And then with our other piece, we're going to just score at 1/2 inch along the short side. So there's my short side at the top, score it at 1/2 inch, flip it over, score it at 1/2 inch on the other side, and fold that over. There we go. And this is the stand bit for the back of the card, so we'll pop that to one side for later. So that's all my scoring done, so I'll pop that board away. Now the thing now is about the fold over, and this is always about preference. I like it that way, but you might prefer it with the bigger piece across, and it's almost like a double-breasted, I suppose. So grabbing your pencil and your ruler, you're going to measure down, I'm just checking, 3 1/4 of an inch. So there's my 3 1/4, and I need to measure, put a mark on both sides. I'm using pencil, so it won't really be seen. You'll also need to come in from the side. So this is the top of my card, that's the bottom, this is the top. You're coming in 1 1/4 inches on the side as well. There's my 1 1/4. So just make a little mark there with my pencil, and the same on this side, 1 1/4 inch on this side. And that just gives us where our collar's going to be. So the way I do this is, let's put my pencil down is I use my ruler to line it up. And all I'm going to do, so I've got my mark there, oops, my mark there and my mark there, and I'm going to just line it up with my ruler. So I've got top here, there's my mark this side, and all I'm going to do is fold it over on my ruler. I find this is the easiest. You can open it out and use your score tool if you want, but this is the way I do it. Possibly a little bit caggy handed for some people, but there you go. So there's that one done, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on this side, but my mark is here, so I need to use my ruler to bring it in a bit. So I'm just going to, if I open it out like that, you can probably see, so there's my mark, and I'm putting it another mark there just so as I can see it. And again, I'm going to, there's my mark, there's my other mark, so those are lined up now. What you can do is use your scoring tool or whatever to do that and then fold it over, but I'm just going to go like that and bring it over like that when I've got my score using my bone folder. So that should now give us a collar on the front of your card. To make it a bit more collar like, I'm going to grab my snips, and as I've done with this one, I pop that underneath. I've got a little snip in the collar on both sides, and that just makes it look a bit more like a suit. So what I'm going to do is get my scissors and just put, so I'm coming down about a quarter of an inch, and I'm just coming in at an angle and snipping it like that. So that gives me, let's grab that gives me that, and I'm just going to fold it over because I want it to be at about the same size on this side, the same height. So I'm just by eyeing it, well, you can measure it if you want to, but I'm just going to by eye it and do a snip in on this side like that. So if I get that on that side and this one on this side, so that you can see, look, I've got a snip either side like that. So just looking, I'm going to make this one a little bit wider because that one's worked out quite wide. So I'm just going to take it at a slightly different angle like that, and the same on this side, just to make it ever so slightly wider and hopefully match the other side. There we go. Now this next step is entirely up to you. I'm doing it because I want a little bit of bling on the front of mine. So I'm bringing in, I've got an old box that I use for all sorts of paint treatments and goodness knows what, and I've got some scrap paper as well. I'm going to put that behind there, that one behind there, and this one over the rest of it. Oops, like that. And I'm going to bring in, so I've got some of this, I think this was Lidl, it's glitter paint spray. And all I'm going to do is, let me grab my pokey tool and hold that down like that, get my fingers out the way, and I'm going to spray it with this. I have got the windows open, so it's on the door, so it's very well ventilated in here. So that's one side. Let's move those out the way. And this does dry fairly quickly. It's not very, very quick. It's fairly quick to dry. I'm going to do the other side as well. So I'll pop that in. And I'm going to got another piece of paper. I don't want to get it all over my card. And again, pop that in there, grab my pokey tool, oops, grab my pokey tool, and again, good shake and spray, like that, ta-da, and there is a bit of glitter and glam on the collar of my card. So I'm going to pop that to one side to dry, while I start working on the shirt part. So the first thing I've done, it's glitter everywhere on my hands. First thing I've done is I've measured down 3/4 of an inch on both sides, and I've drawn a very, very faint pencil line. And then oh, I forgot my measurements. Let me just get my ruler out again. I thought so. Let me have another look. 1 and 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So measure along here at 1 3/8. And 1, 2, 3. And put a little mark there. And do the same on the other side. 1 3/8. So 1, 2, no, 1, 2, 3. That's there. And what you're going to do is get your scissors, and you're going to cut in along that line till you get to that mark. I always go slightly past it, only slightly, just so as I don't put any extra tension on my papers, but I don't want to go as far as 1.5 inches. So I've gone just past. You can see I've already stamped my greeting, so that's the back. So I'm going to flip it over, and oh, actually before I do that, I've got myself a white ruler, which I only use for pencil marks on white paper, just because I've found that other coloured rubbers leave a mark, and I do clean it off afterwards. So I'll pop that to one side and I'll clean it off later, and you get a much cleaner back there now with the pencil mark. So now you're going to do is do a collar. So just bring your two, so these 2 points here, you want to sort of meet at to create the collar. So bring it across and come down, or as far up as you want to, and just have them meeting. I like a slight overlap, and then I'm not going to use my bone folder. I'm just using my fingers to push that down, because what I want to do is, you see when I lay it flat it disappears. When I let it go you get a little bit of a shadow, so you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that up using some dimensionals, but I'm not going to do it just yet, because now we need to create the tie. So let's pop that one to one side now as well. So to create the tie, get yourself a piece of scrap paper. So long thin piece of scrap paper, which is 3 inches long. And then what you're going to do is measure 3/4 of an inch from one end and 1/2 inch from the other. Then measure across 3/8 of an inch and just cut that down like that. So we don't need those. So you now have a piece that is 3 inches by 3/4 of an inch. Sorry, yes, 3/4 of an inch. Now do that to start off with if you want, and then do your measurements at 3/4 and 1/2 inch, entirely up to you. So what now you're going to happen, so this 1/2 inch end is going to be the bottom of your tie. Let me show you what I mean. It's going to be that way. So that is the bottom of the tie. That's the 1/2 inch. This is the top of the tie where the knot is. This is the 3/4 inch. So all you're going to do is cut from the crease to the end of the paper at an angle like that. And if that's a little bit too steep for you or a bit sharp for you, you can always go back in and cut a little bit more. So start a little bit higher and then cut to the edge there where that line is, and that gives you a slightly different angle. It's all about taste, doesn't really matter that much. Next thing you're going to do, and I always bring in my long scissors for this, is we now have to cut this piece. So fold it in half again, and this time you're going to start on the edge. So not the folded bit, on the edge. You're going to get your scissors and you're going to aim to cut from here to that point there, so at the top of your paper. You're going to aim for here, but you're going to stop at that line. So aim to let me show, I'll draw it on, why not? That's probably the easiest way for me to show you. So from that line to there, let's get my pencil out. And if this works, because this is a template, this is not your actual tie. So that's the angle you're aiming for, but you're stopping here. Let me show you. I do it by eye using my long nose scissors because I can lay it down and point to there. So you're bringing it up to there and stopping at that 3/4 inch line. So we now have this 3/4 inch here to make our knot. But if I open it like that, you can see we're now starting to get a tie shape. And all we have to do now is fold it in half again, and this time go from this corner to that at a you know, a rounded angle. So let me show you what I mean. You're going to go and you're going to create a round sort of circular look. If I put it on the black, that might be easier. So it's sort of at a sort of curved like that, and that then gives us, I'll turn it that way, gives us our tie shape. For it to fit under our collar, just cut out a little V like that. Okay, like that. So that is now our template to create our tie. And once you've done it once, keep it and you can use it every time. Then get yourself some patterned paper, and on the back of it, use your template, or in this case this one, use your template, draw around it in pencil, then cut it out, and you've now got your tie. So let me pop that back over there, pop that one back over there, and bring my shirt back in. So now what I want to do is fit it under there like that. And the easiest way is to just get a bit of glue and glue it in place. I haven't glued down these yet, and I'll tell you for why in a second. So I'm not putting lots of glue on, just enough to hold it. I don't want it to ooze. So I'm just going to push my collar down and very carefully line up my tie under there and lay that flat. And then very gently, I'm using my bone folder just to push that in. I'm just going to turn it around to make sure it's straight. Ever so slightly skewy. There we go. Sometimes think it's my eyes because the pattern is trying to give you that. So now you've got that. Next step is grab a couple of dimensionals, and these are just Poundland ones that I picked up the other day. Used quite a few, as you can see, and I'm just going to pop it on the back of the collar on both sides like that. Look at this glitter absolutely everywhere. I'm going to have to go and wash my hands when I've finished. Try and get that glitter off. So take that off and then fold it back over, and you now have your collar in shape, and because we've created that little bit of shadow, it is more defined. The last thing that I do, and this is purely preference, I bring my scissors in and I will cut off a very slight slither at an angle there, going towards the collar. And as you can see, it's just a tiny little bit, but it's not so boxy now on this. And what happens is when you pop it into the sleeve, so put the shirt inside the suit, you don't get the white showing at the top here. So I'm going to do that on both sides, just a tiny little slither like that. You can do it before you put the tie on or before you put your shirt down, entirely up to you. So that's the inside nearly done. The next thing I've done is I've gone and got myself 3 little buttons that I've created using where have I put that? Oh, there it is. Using a button die, the smallest one I've got. So I've cut out 3 of them, and I'm just going to grab my tweezers and some glue, and before I do that, I'm just going to draw a line down the middle, not quite, I'm going to one side of the tie. I'm just drawing by eye, just drawing a very faint pencil line, just to give you a line of the, you know, the 2 fronts of the shirt joined together, rather than it. I did glue them down initially on the card, and it looked a bit strange because they did look a bit sort of stuck in the middle of nowhere. So what I've done is put the line, and I thought that just sort of anchors them a bit. So I glittered these in the same way as I've done the collar on the shirt, on the suit, in my my little messy box that I've got, glitter station or paint station, whatever you want to call it. So there's a little bit of bling on there. I do like to have my buttons going in different directions, just because it makes it look a little bit more natural in terms of the holes in the shirt. So I'm going to pop that to one side to dry, and then I'm going to bring my shirt back in. Not my shirt, my jacket. So hopefully this is dry, nearly, yep. Okay, so that's how it's going to go. So the next thing I need to do is to glue this down to create the sleeve. So easiest way of doing that is a line across the bottom with your glue. I do like to go back again and make a slightly wider line there. And then because I'm going that way, I want to put some glue up here as well. So a little bit of glue on the inside of this jacket. I'm not going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on there as well, not all the way to the top, just so as I've got glue holding it down on both sides like that. And then I've got some pegs here, which I'm just going to peg along the bottom to hold it in place while it dries. I'm actually going to get my bone folder and give that a really good crease now, just to hold it all in place like that. There we go. And because I've done the front as well, I'm going to put one of my clips in just to hold it until the glue grabs like that. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to work on these collars. So normally I would leave it to dry first, but as I've on camera and my it's all or nothing with my camera. You do it in one take or you don't get it at all. So I've got a couple of dimensions on the back of there, which I'm going to use to fold back that collar on there. Let's use that to crease that down, and the same on this side. 1, 2 to hold it down on this side. Let's get rid of those. Those go over that side, and again bone folder, crease that down. Actually, I don't need that. I'm just going to keep doing that. So that gives that a little bit of dimension as well. I've also got a couple of buttons as well that I've cut out using the same die as on the shirt. But I've also got myself a happy birthday. And my preference is to put it there like that. But it's entirely up to you where you want to put it. You know, you can have it to the side, you can have it right at the bottom. But I like to have it in the middle. So I'm just going to put some dimensionals behind there. Let's grab another sheet. Oops. There, so there's 3 there. And actually I'm going to take those off now. That should have grabbed. Let's use that to push it all down. Right, before I do the that, I'm going to glue my buttons down. So my first button, I always put the first button at the bottom just because it gives you some. I never put the middle one in first. I always put the top and the bottom in first. It's just the way I work. Some people do it in the middle and then work out outwards, but this is the way that works for me. So 1 at the bottom, 1 at the top, covering over those pencil marks I made earlier. And then this is going to go in the middle. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to turn it round so I can see. I have it in the middle and slightly to one side. Still says happy birthday, and there's glitter absolutely everywhere, but I will wipe that off later. So there is that done. So let's pop that to one side, and while everything's drying I can bring in the stand. So do you remember the stand bit? We've already creased at 1/2 inch, and it's so easy. All I'm going to do is cut from that corner to this corner. Let me just double check. I'm going to pop it on. Yeah, so it's this corner to this corner. So without going over the crease mark, so you're stopping shy of the crease mark. So see, that's what we've got now, is that. Fold it over, and you see how you've got the back here showing. So grab your scissors again, and using that cut you just made, snip that away. It just makes it look a little bit better, a little bit more professional when you fold it over. And the same at the bottom, a very narrow snip. Grab your glue, put your glue all the way down. This is now our hinge that will go on the back of the card, like that. Grab my card and lay it down. I always come up slightly. Now the higher you come up, the more your card will, when you stand it up, the more your card will lean. If you put it so that it's right at the bottom, your card will be very upright. If you come up slightly, it will lean back. So I generally come up about 1/4 of an inch, and I eye it again. And again, I'm going to use my bone folder to push that glue into the card like that. So if I turn it round and use that to show you, so there's my card, there's my stand at the back of my card like that. Let's rub that in even more to get it to stick. There we go. You can use, if you're in a hurry, you can use double-sided tape. Perhaps I should have done, just for quickness. But then once that's taken, it will stand up beautifully like that. And then bring in your finished insert. That goes in there like that. And there's your card finished. All done and dusted, and fingers crossed I've managed to do it within my 30 minutes. There we go. So there's 2 cards completed, and there's my rough working out one. So yeah, really quick and simple, very easy card to make, and just a bit different as well, which is what I liked about it when I saw them on Pinterest. So yeah, hope you have a go at it. Let me know if you do, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.